All right, 5 minutes after 10 o'clock, it's time to talk about your favorite sport, which is golf. And if you're a snowbird and you haven't been around in a while, maybe you need a couple of lessons. And Jim Beckett might know somebody who can help you. I think maybe Jim would be that person. Jim is a PGA professional and the golf college founder. And that's at the links of Spruce Creek South. But he comes on this radio station every other week or so to educate us about the game of golf. Good morning, Jim. How you doing?
Good morning, Larry.
Hey.
Great day.
Here you are. How was traffic? Bad?
I'm going to have to start an hour and a half early, looks like, for a 20-minute trip.
Oh, no. Yeah, I had that the other day, too. So
Yeah.
one of those things.
I just don't want to get caught speeding trying to get here for the radio show. I want to drive comfortable and safe.
Do you know what I notice about golfers?
Yeah.
I notice that if they don't play golf all the time, they will talk about the golf game they played like 6 months ago all the time.
They remember the good one, usually.
And if they play it all the time, they hardly talk about it at all. You don't really know the golfers, typically. I mean, the real golfers.
Yeah, there's a defined separation in the different categories of people who play golf.
I guess because it's a novelty for a guy like me, for example, and I fit into the first category. I'd be the guy still talking about the game from 2 years ago, which I am.
Well, you might get more out of it.
Maybe you think? I don't know.
Some people set unrealistic goals, and that gets them frustrated. And then, of course, in Florida, because we average more than 21 years old, everybody talks about losing distance. My number one request for lessons.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they all know, how in the world can I get more distance? I said, it's very simple. You move to Colorado, play on a mountain course, play with the wind behind your back, and hit downhill. You'll hit that ball a long way.
So it sounds like what you're saying, as we get older, we just lose distance. We lose
Little
strength.
flexibility, maybe reflex speed's not quite as good. Synchronization between the upper and lower body probably gets a little out of whack because of balance.
Does the swing of when you're driving a ball, does the club necessarily have to go all the way around? It seems like it's like if you were to measure, it looks like it might be almost 300 degrees, not quite 360, but it goes a long way.
Depends on the speed you swing, you create that centrifugal force, so it would actually take muscle to slow it down. So my swing's maybe 50-60% of what it was, because I'm swinging around 30 miles an hour slower than when I could swing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was swinging in the 80, 85 range, and now I swing in the 55 to 65 range. So consequently, mathematics means that ball is just not going to go as far.
Okay, so now let me ask you a question about that. If I remember right, the center of a circle, when it's spinning, goes slower than the outer part of a circle.
Correct.
Right? So would that mean that if you wanted to increase your speed, you got to have a longer club? Would the longer club go faster at the club end of it?
I use a significantly longer club, and as you notice when I walk in, I'm not very tall. I'm pretty short.
So if you stood on a box and you had a really long club, would the club actually go faster?
There's a point where it becomes a diminishing return, but yes, I play with the club 2 inches longer than standard.
Huh. And what, do you stand back farther just a little bit to give it?
Just a little bit. 2 inches is not a lot. It just changes the plane, but that extra length be like taking a short piece of string and putting a weight at the end of it. The shorter the string, the harder it is to make it go fast. The longer the string, it takes less effort to go fast.
Yeah, right.
So it's a balancing act, and each person would have a different kind of a formula. That's probably what personalization is with clubs, which is becoming a lot more important than fit. Get the clubs so that they're behooving you.
So the person with the desire to swing, to drive the ball farther, might sometimes come to that same conclusion and say, I need longer clubs. And what would you say to that person?
The average golfer, a high percentage of the average golfer thinks longer clubs are harder to hit, and they're actually much easier to hit.
Oh, really?
Well, if they don't have a centrifugal force swing, then they're very difficult to hit.
And are the is it the graphite clubs? Are they lighter? And
Graphite's roughly half as heavy as steel.
And does it make it? How does that affect the game? I'll just ask it that way.
Well, graphite kind of filters your off-center hits, which in steel the steel shaft works like a tuning fork. If you hit off center, it kind of vibrates, and you feel it in the hands.
Yeah.
And it's definitely heavier.
And
So you can swing a graphite. A machine could swing the same exact swing, and they would swing a graphite shaft faster than steel because they're dragging less weight around. There's a point where that gets too light as well. In other words, it's all a balancing act.
By the way, the phone lines are open if you'd like to speak to Jim, and the number is the WOCA Climate Control Source Hotline, 622-9622. Jim Beckett, of course, the founder of the Golf College. I hope I mentioned that in the beginning, did I?
You did.
Good.
And for those out in Radio Land, Larry asks extremely intelligent questions, and it's because he plays golf so often.
One time. No, I actually played when I was a kid, a little bit.
Sure. It was different then.
I had no idea what I was doing.
It wasn't such a commercial push then.
It was just
golf
fun.
was a little more laid back. You didn't have to be out your tee time exactly at the right time. You didn't have marshals pushing you around.
Yeah.
It's very commercial.
Do you know where Beverly Hills is?
I do.
Okay. Well, believe it or not, see, my grandparents moved there in the 60s.
Really?
And if you know Beverly Hills, then there's a big plot of land between, like, the little hotel at one of the entrances of Beverly Hills and, like, Winn-Dixie or something down there. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that plot of land used to be a golf course, believe it or not. A tiny little golf course.
Yep.
And there was no tee time necessary. You just went and played. There was nobody even managing it. It was
Probably the land got so valuable they couldn't keep it as that.
But it's still there. I mean, there's no holes there anymore. There's no.
Oh, the land's still there.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be darned.
Just a
Well, the upkeep
field.
of a golf course surprises a lot of people. I mean, just take your yard as your house. You water it, you fertilize it, you cut it.
Right.
And that's a teeny little piece. Most people's house doesn't have any more than the size of 1 or 2 greens, and you got 18 on the golf course, plus the fairways, plus the tees, plus the rough, plus the sand traps.
Oh man, that's the big expense.
Yeah, the big expense is maintenance. Costs somewhere between $350,000 and $600,000 depending on the course you have to maintain it annually.
Wow. Just real quickly to talk about like coffee shops. When people complain about paying like $4 a cup of coffee to go to a coffee shop, I always say, well, it would be crazy to spend it at the drive-thru, but you're really paying to sit in a seat and drink a cup of coffee. You're paying for the moment. You're renting that space so you can chat with your friends. It's not really all about the coffee.
Yeah.
But I think the same thing might be true for a golf course. So you have a lot of people that are working pretty hard to make sure that your experience there is really nice. It's not just about the game.
Our course probably is as strong on that as any course I've been to, other than maybe a high-end private course. But we have a staff of about 7, and they do the job of about 3. So maybe 20 people. Not counting the maintenance people.
Oh, each person does a job of 3.
Just for operations.
Oh, okay. So then when you think about the dollar amount it costs to play the game, I don't know if people complain about it or not, but it seems like that would be the same thing.
They all remember the cheap greens fees. Our greens fees probably annually average about $25 to play. And that fee, if you break it down what it covers, is extremely cheap, but people don't think so.
How much is the golf college?
People to go, spend $50, $60, $75 on a dinner,
right? And
it's gone.
Right. Well,
goes to the bathroom.
Sure does.
But I don't know anything that you can do that lasts 4.5 hours. It's much cheaper than that. Movies are more expensive. You do the hourly rate.
Plus, there's exercise built in, right?
Plus popcorn.
So, how much can I ask? How much would it cost to go to the golf college?
Golf college has extremely wide variances to accommodate the will or the need or the want from the golfer. We do college. To do the full college program is 20 hours. 20 hours is nothing. An average work week's 40.
Right.
And golf's a lot tougher than doing a job. Can be. So we do programs as 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20 hours. And the reason we do is we have just like in college, we have a curriculum of three different things. One is just the instructional side of it, if that's what your foundation base needs. The second one is developing your swing skills so you can do shot making, have an idea which club goes where and how far and what have you. Mm-hmm. That's a 20-item list. And then the last one, if you really want to play, enjoy the game, and score, it's learn to play and learn to score. Just hitting the ball doesn't necessarily make the best ball striker, doesn't necessarily shoot the lowest score. It takes a lot of management. Well, you were there.
Yeah.
But when you first play, distance seems like the overall best thing. I mean, you think that's going to solve everything, but it really doesn't.
So how many, I guess this is a subjective question, I guess, but how many people show up and they don't even know the rules of the game? Like, you have to teach them everything. Like maybe the person says, all my friends golf, I've never golfed, you need to teach me. I don't even know the terminology or anything.
Of the golfers who play and who are very efficient at it, most of them, I know maybe 30% of what they would need to know to play better and enjoy the game more. They just know their little world. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that's bad.
No, right,
but anyway,
right.
To finish on that statement, you said, we charge $94 for a private lesson, which lasts about an hour and a half. That's expensive. I don't do those. I think they're counterproductive. You're not going to learn in an hour and a half. So the golf college is $37.95 an hour. And that hour is usually a 90-minute hour. It's not not a clock hour. It's whatever is needed. So if that person makes that commitment, then we're going to take the time to cover the entire curriculum. So sometimes I've had some people buy the 20-hour program. It took me 30 hours to get it done. So it's not like it's cut and dry. It's just a basis of how you structure the price.
Who is your favorite student? Not the person's name, but I mean the type of person.
My favorite student is women, and my favorite student is beginners and new golfers. Because I'm going to help them not go through all the ills. You'll see a lot of people on the golf course frowning and complaining and not being happy. And I say, why would you spend your money and go out there and put yourself through all that grief if it's not fun? Like you had an interesting day. One time you played with us on that tournament or that outing. So it's the lack of information and the lack of education, and that's the whole reason I came up with the word golf college. We go to college to learn all the ins and outs of some profession we want to do. Then we go into on-the-job training to learn how to do it, but we learn how because we have the background to understand it and develop ourselves into our peak efficiency. So that's what golf takes. But you see, we had a lady come just the other day. She can't hit it from near that glass. Really? And she said, do I need more than one lesson? And I have a real smart-ass answer. You know my smart mouth. I said, well, I was a gifted athlete, and it took me 16 years. You may need 3 lessons. It's hard to explain that to somebody. So we have a manual. I'll have to bring one up and show you sometime. Can't show the TV people, the radio people, but it's so when we sit down with the person, we do an extensive interview at no charge. And I would suggest everybody come and do that. And if you don't buy something, we'll still be friends. We do an extensive interview. It takes about an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, to learn about that person. Where are they at? What do they do for a living? What's their attitude about things? What's their physical abilities? What's their mental strengths? And then what are they trying to achieve? So we gather all that data, and then we open up our book and say, well, here's all the curriculum, and you can pick and choose the area that you think is going to satisfy that. We then go out on the practice tee, and they swing and hit some shots for us, and we say, well, based on what you've told us and based on what you've showed us, here is a formula that will make you better, and it's guaranteed. If it doesn't, you don't pay. It's easy to do once you have that information. So they become the world's greatest golf teacher, but only for their set of parameters. In other words, they need to know the data that's pertinent to them. So the next person comes in, and it's a whole new program because that person's bringing a whole different mental, physical background, and their swing that they currently are using is either dysfunctional or interrupting or I'm sure when you played, you hit some shots that surprised you how good, and you hit some where you thought you swung just as good, and they didn't go very good at all.
Right.
Having that awareness of what the difference is means you could help yourself. So that's what Golf College really is. And we're officially open as of Monday.
Okay.
We will start our new programs Monday for the season. The season, of course, runs through April. And after that, we'll soften those programs into what we call grad school and grade school.
Oh, okay.
So, of course, may only want to know the basic stuff.
So if you're maybe new to the area, maybe if you're a snowbird and you hadn't heard Jim before, and you want to either learn golf or become better at it, the golf college is down in Spruce Creek South.
Yeah, so they can call and make a private appointment or come as a couple or whatever, and that entire orientation is at no charge. Why do we do that? It's shameful marketing. If they don't perceive it's a good idea, then it's not.
That's right.
If they do perceive it's a good idea, we're going to find out the time they have to invest, a budget that they're comfortable with, and a goal they're trying to achieve when we formulate their personal program.
Right. And
that's the difference between us and regular college. You got to buy what's in the menu, and we don't do that. So it never fails. It works every time, not because of me, but because of the format, how we put it together. We're going to be spending every minute from their perspective and their ability and what they're trying to achieve. It's fun to do because it's almost foolproof in a way.
Have you ever had a student seriously wanting to really be pretty good at it, or at least good enough to have fun?
I have one currently.
And then he or she goes out to golf with her or his friends or spouse or whatever, and the others who've been doing it longer say, no, you got that wrong, let me show you how to do it, and she or he's doing exactly what you showed them, and then they come back to you the second lesson, you go, you know what my friend said? Do you get that?
Have not found anybody who bypasses that negative. And
really?
In those other people's defense, if they're more experienced or they hit the ball better, they're making a correct assumption that how they do it should work for anybody. It's not so. Your golf swing is as individual as your DNA or your fingerprint. And if you look at golf on TV, they swing similar, but they all swing different. They all swing a personalized swing that taps into their can-do.
Oh, wow. And they learn
how they think
and
how physically they can swing. So every swing is a very personalized swing when it's efficient.
So do you observe, like if I were to show you my swing, and I know you did this because I was with you, but did you observe the swings that we did or that anybody did? Of course. And then say, like take a mental note, okay, when I work with him, I'm going to show him exactly what I think he should do.
We're going to do the least possible to get the ball going better. Because if you look out and see the ball going better, you will change your swing because of confidence. In sports and probably in life, confidence is way more important than content.
Yeah. And
if you think you can, you got a good chance of doing it. If you think you can't, you're kind of wasting time.
That's true.
So I work on the head a lot more than the body.
And when you say swing better, that doesn't mean farther, does it?
No. First off, we'd like to make solid contact all the time. Then we like to have accuracy. If we do those two things, distance will materialize. But if we try to get distance only, usually it's a rocky road. It makes things worse.
Yeah, so it's really the science that makes the ball go the right distance and the right direction.
Yeah, it's a formula. Solid contact is number one. You could have a perfect grip, perfect swing, perfect everything, perfect stance. If you miss hit the ball, it's a miss. Conversely, you could have a horrible grip and a horrible stance. You make solid contact, it's going to go pretty good.
Now, what about all the clubs you use, aside from the driver and the putter? They all have a different angle on it. How do you know which one to use?
Trial and error, or that's in our formula to have you tell me, what does this club do for you? Because if you have 10 people, you're probably going to get 10 different answers. Therefore, when somebody else tells you how to use that club, it's not going to work for you. You need to know. So you need ownership of that information and the freedom to do it the way you want to.
Does the number on a club actually mean something?
Yes.
What does it mean?
The lower the number, the less loft it has on the face to propel the ball lower with more velocity. The higher the number, the more tilt on the face to get the ball up into the air and put some backspin on it.
Ah.
So a
Okay.
9-iron has more loft than a 7.
And
7 has more loft than a 5.
and is there a club called a sand wedge, or is that just a nickname?
It's a slang term. You know, it's
So
a
is that-
56-degree wedge is a standard.
Okay, so which club is
And
the
the thing
sand wedge?
that's so sad about that is the sand wedge works wonderful in grass. So it ought to be a sand grass wedge.
Yeah, right. So is that one of the numbered clubs?
No.
No.
When you get to 9, they go to wedge. Pitching wedge, middle wedge,
Oh, okay,
sand wedge, lob wedge,
And how's it labeled? What is
pancake wedge.
This
It
is-
just says PW
Okay.
or S or P
Oh,
or
okay.
M or S or what have you. It's telling they all are wedges. They just have different lofts. And we've often wondered why some company doesn't go ahead and discontinue the numbers, because the number is telling you how much loft, roughly.
Yeah,
A
that
10 will
makes
have more
sense.
loft
Now that
than
I
a
know what that
9 and
means.
so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have a phone call, Jim.
Great.
Good morning. You're on the air with Jim Beckett.
Good morning, sir. Or lady,
Yes, good
whoever's on
morning,
the.
I've always wondered, watching golf on TV and that, and you watch the pros, and some of these guys have the most weirdest looking putters. Is there any regulation on how weird it can be, or what it can be, or can you use anything you want to use, or is it determined by like a tournament what you can and cannot have on the course?
I don't know this for sure, but I believe at the moment they don't have any specific restrictions on a putter, because if it gets too big and too bulky, then the person probably can't putt with it. So it's kind of self-imposed as to what would and would not work. But you're right. You see some putters that look like they're sophisticated branding irons
Yeah.
for cattle.
There must have been a lot of development or research into some of those, to figure, what makes them better than a regular putter, evidently.
Well, evidently it has, because they do sell and they're quite expensive. But we're back to that confidence thing, or the visual thing. If a person looks down and thinks they can line that club up better, and because of how it's weighted and how it's designed, if they think they get a better feel, if they believe that, then that changes what their mind is. But ultimately, it matters what that person does with the club they have.
Yeah.
So they're looking for the intangible club that will give that person an edge, either mentally or physically.
Yeah. Would a golfer, like, let's say he wants to develop a putter, go to a manufacturer and sit down and then kind of to go through the whole thing and come up with some kind of an idea, and they make it for him? Is that the procedure on that, or do they have to just select what's all available?
Most companies have someone or several people who are looking for something to give them a marketing edge.
Yeah.
In other words, it all comes down to money for the company. Now, if an individual does this and comes up with a great idea, and I happen to know a few people over the years that did that, the problem is now get it tooled so you can get some to sell, and then how are the people going to know you even got it? So
Right.
the launching it into the marketplace to get some return in funds with money is the whole problem. I know a lot of people have come up with some great ideas and made one for themselves, and it works good. But it's hard to launch it and do all the costs to get it launched, recovered, and then have some left over for profit.
Right. See, one last real quick question.
Sure.
Are golfers regulated as far as how much advertising they can have on their golf bags when they're in tournaments and it's on TV and everything?
I believe it is. It's when it becomes totally obsessive and ridiculous. No, I don't think there is yet. That's marketing, and when you get the dollars involved, they tend to always win. I know there are a few pros out there that are a little against that. They would prefer not being a billboard, and then others think it's wonderful because it's free money, so to speak, so they feel like, why not take the money? So you get a lot of different opinions about that. I've always thought if these
thank
big...
you very much for your answer, and I enjoy your program. Goodbye.
Okay, if you're still listening, I'll tell you an idea I have. I think we'll win. I think we should take the numbers off the football players and have Coca-Cola through a pass to Pepsi and Pepsi.
Wow, that is a good idea.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
Yeah, it's a joke.
So what is your phone number if somebody wants to call you for lessons or maybe even advice on buying some clubs? Where would they call you?
Well, I invite everyone to take advantage of this free orientation. Obviously, it's shameful marketing, but I mean it when I say they don't have to buy anything to come for that and get the gist of how this works. Our number is 352-470-3876.
All right. And call us if you need that repeated. We'll be glad to do that for you here at the station. Jim, always fascinating. It's always amazing how quickly the time goes when we do this show.
Yeah, these 10-minute shows go by fast.
It feels like it, right? It feels like 10 minutes. All right. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, sir.
We will take a little break and be right back.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Life jackets save lives. We're in Florida. After some morning fog patches, it'll be warm today with clouds and sun at a high of 80 to 84. Partly cloudy tonight, low 61 inland, 69 at the coast. Tomorrow, clouds will limit sunshine. It'll become breezy with a passing shower, the high 74 to 79. For Saturday,